I've always wanted to be an architect. The way in which I use that skill set is to advocate for social justice in the built environment.
So when you see areas of concentrated poverty or lack of access to transportation, all of that is a result of kind of very intentional decision making. So when I think about the role of designers within a social justice context, it's important to think about how we can start dismantling some of these existing methods of oppression that are physically manifested in where people live, work, and play.
Our work heightens under a Trump presidency. I think the importance of really pushing forward voices that can be, that have been, that are being marginalized becomes critical. I think there's an ethical responsibility to intervene where we know that something is wrong and say that it's wrong, because old sins have long shadows.
The ways in which infrastructure spending will go back into communities will see a lot of the same triggers, whether it's highways through communities of color, whether that's infrastructure plans that focus on cars and traveling and not on communities that require walkable spaces. We can show what that looks like as designers. We can speak to the criminality and the consequence of doing work in that way.
Trump's record of development in New York does harken back to projects and policies of the 50s and 60s. The idea that you just ram something through and see how it goes, and that that's a right, and that that's how power can be applied and should be applied. If we can't learn from those lessons and do better, then we're replicating the same bad policies with the same bad outcomes.
Our ability to disrupt these structures is by bringing new voices, new people, new communities into the negotiations.
Within our framework of what we do in Indigenous planning, we essentially base it on a concept that we call the 7 generations planning model, to get people to think about themselves as being the middle generation, and then to think about their parents, their grandparents, and their great-grandparents, and also then moving into the future, their children, their grandchildren, and their great-grandchildren. We remind everybody that within a healthy community, all of those voices are present.
We have to be much more upfront, out front, and overt about our political positions and the political needs of the communities that are our partners.
Architecture and design can't single-handedly disrupt systems of inequality, but I think we have a role to play in showing new solutions that can begin to break down these rather tall walls of oppression.
There is a generation that's now charged towards advocating and pulling in new people who are ginned up and ready to fight this fight.